Sometimes, being the responsible one starts before you even understand what responsibility means. Growing up, my sister was always the golden child, not just to our parents, but to everyone around us. And me? I was the one who made sure she never faced a single consequence. I protected her like it was my full-time job. Where are you watching from today? Comment down below. I remember the first time I stood up to a bully for her. She was in 3rd grade, and Tommy Peterson was taunting her during recess. While other kids watched, I marched right up and told him exactly what I thought of someone picking on my little sister. Tommy never bothered her again. Homework was another battlefield where I was her silent warrior. While she struggled with math, I'd sit beside her for hours, breaking down each problem, explaining concepts until they made sense. Our parents would praise her for finally understanding, never quite seeing the hours of behind-the-scenes work I'd put in. It wasn't that I minded, not at first. There was something almost heroic about being the one who could solve problems, who could make things right. Our parents would ruffle my hair and say things like, "You're so mature for your age," or "We can always count on you." At the time, I thought these were compliments. I covered for her when she missed curfew. I helped her prepare for tests she'd forgotten about. I was her safety net, her backup plan, her invisible support system. And through it all, I believed that's what being a good sister meant. Looking back, I can see the pattern forming. Every small sacrifice, every moment of stepping up was slowly building a framework of expectation, not just for me, but for everyone around us. I was becoming the family's designated problem solver, the one who would always be there, always be reliable. Our parents never explicitly said it, but their actions spoke volumes. When something went wrong, they'd look at me. When something needed fixing, I was the first call. My sister? She was protected, coddled, given chance after chance. I didn't realize then that I was being molded into something more than a sister. I was becoming a caretaker, a financial safety net, an emotional buffer for everyone else's mistakes. And the most dangerous part? I was doing it willingly, believing that this was love. Little did I know how much this childhood pattern would cost me in the years to come. How each small yes was building a mountain of expectation that would one day become impossible to climb. But at that moment, sitting next to my sister, helping her with another impossible math problem, I felt nothing but love. Pure, unconditional, unknowingly self-sacrificing love. The transition from childhood protector to family financial lifeline was so gradual, I hardly noticed it happening. It started innocently enough during my sister's college years. Our parents were struggling financially, Dad had lost his job, and Mom was working part-time at a local diner. My sister had always been the dreamer, the one with big plans and zero concept of financial reality. When her college acceptance letter arrived, I knew immediately what needed to be done. I was working 2 jobs by then. Days at a marketing firm, nights as a freelance graphic designer. Every extra penny went into a savings account I'd secretly started for her tuition. When the first semester's bill came due, I stepped in without hesitation. "I'll cover it," I told our parents. Their relief was palpable, my sister's excitement overwhelming. The first loan was $12,000, then another $15,000 the next semester. I told myself it was an investment in her future. I told myself family helps family. What I didn't tell myself was how quickly these temporary support payments would become my permanent financial burden. After college, the requests didn't stop. They evolved. "I'm between jobs," she'd say. Or, "The startup isn't paying me yet." Each time I'd transfer money. Rent in San Francisco, then a car payment, then just a small emergency that somehow always cost thousands. I calculated it once, late at night, surrounded by bank statements and receipts. Over the course of 5 years, I'd given her nearly $87,000. Not gifts, not loans with a clear repayment plan, just endless financial band-aids that never seemed to heal the underlying wound. There was the time she needed $5,000 for networking events in New York. Another $10,000 when her boyfriend needed help with his business venture. Each request came with a mix of manipulation and performance, tearful phone calls, dramatic explanations, subtle hints about how I was the only one who could help. Our parents watched this dance, never intervening. Sometimes they'd add their own subtle pressure. "You're doing so well," they'd tell me. "Your sister just needs a little help." As if financial success was something to be redistributed at will. As if my hard work was a communal resource. I wasn't blind to the irony. While I was working myself to exhaustion, saving every penny, sacrificing personal dreams and experiences, my sister lived a life of relative ease. Designer clothes, fancy dinners, weekend trips, all funded ultimately by my relentless work. The resentment began to simmer beneath the surface. It wasn't about the money anymore. Not really. It was about the total lack of appreciation. The expectation that I would always be there, always be the safety net, always be willing to sacrifice. I remember one conversation that crystallized everything. "You don't understand how hard it is," she told me when I gently suggested she might need a budget. "Not everyone can be as perfect and successful as you." The words were meant to sound like a compliment, but they felt like a knife. Perfect? Successful? I was a human ATM, bleeding out slowly, funding a lifestyle I could never afford for myself. Every emergency fund I created was another dream of my own pushed further into the background. A dream vacation, a down payment on a house, advanced certifications that could elevate my own career. But family comes first, right? That's what they always said. Family helps family. Except this help was a one-way street, and I was the only one driving. By the time the wedding invitation came, with its not-so-subtle financial expectations, I was already a volcano of suppressed frustration. Years of silent sacrifice had created a pressure cooker of emotions, and something, I knew, was about to give. I looked at my bank statements. I looked at my dreams. I looked at the endless cycle of financial support that had defined my relationship with my sister. And for the first time, I allowed myself to wonder, when does helping become enabling? When does love transform into something that looks suspiciously like exploitation? Success isn't handed to you. It's something you chase relentlessly, often in the dark, when everyone else is sleeping. My career wasn't a straight line. It was a messy, complicated climb punctuated by late nights, endless cups of coffee, and a determination that borderlined on obsession. While my sister dreamed and waited for opportunities to find her, I was busy creating them, one exhausting step at a time. I started in entry-level marketing, the kind of job where you're more invisible than essential. My first apartment was a tiny studio that doubled as an office, with a desk crammed next to my pull-out sofa. Weekdays meant a 9-to-5 job, but my real work started after hours. I'd take online courses, attend webinars, network relentlessly. Certifications became my religion. Digital marketing, project management, data analytics. Each new credential was another weapon in my professional arsenal. I wasn't just working. I was building a fortress of skills that would become my ultimate protection. My sister would call during these marathon study sessions. "You're always working," she'd say, a mix of pity and judgment in her voice. What she didn't understand was that every extra hour was an investment, in myself, in my future, in the life I was determined to build. The first major breakthrough came 3 years in. A startup noticed my portfolio, a collection of passion projects and freelance work I'd cultivated during my off hours. They offered me a position that was part strategy, part innovation. The salary was modest, but the potential was enormous. I remembered the day I told my family. My sister was more interested in the free lunch options at my new job. My parents seemed more concerned about whether the company was stable enough. Nobody asked about the hours of preparation, the countless rejections, the persistent self-improvement that led to this moment. But I was just getting started. Each promotion became a silent rebellion. Each raise was another layer of financial independence. I wasn't just climbing a career ladder. I was building a life raft that would eventually save me from the endless cycle of family expectations. Strategic networking became my superpower. I wasn't just attending industry events. I was building relationships, understanding the unspoken rules of professional success. While my sister waited for opportunities to come to her, I was creating a web of connections that would become my professional safety net. The sacrifices were real. Birthdays spent working, holidays interrupted by conference calls, weekends that blended into weekday preparations. My social life was a spreadsheet of calculated interactions, each connection a potential professional opportunity. My sister's path looked dramatically different. She floated between jobs, each position seemingly a gift from our parents' network or her boyfriend's connections. "I'm finding myself," she'd say when questioned about her career trajectory. I was finding myself too, but through hard work, not wishful thinking. By my late 20s, I was leading digital strategy for a major marketing firm. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was the one financing her dreams, creating a safety net for her entire life. And yet, I was building something far more substantial. A career built on genuine skill and relentless determination. The financial support I'd been providing wasn't just monetary. It was a constant emotional tax. Every time I helped her, I was postponing my own dreams. A down payment on a house, advanced training. That dream vacation I'd been planning for years. My colleagues saw me as driven. My family saw me as the responsible one. But what they didn't see was the silent anger brewing beneath the surface. The resentment of being the perpetual fixer, the endless support system for a family that took me for granted. When the wedding invitation arrived, it was more than just a piece of paper. It was another expectation, another demand on my carefully constructed life. My sister, who had never truly understood the meaning of hard work, was now expecting me to fund her dream wedding. I looked at my career, each certification, each late night, each strategic move. I looked at the life I'd built, brick by painstaking brick. And I realized my worth wasn't determined by how much I could give. It was defined by what I was capable of achieving. The game was about to change, and this time I was playing by my rules. Family gatherings always felt like carefully choreographed performances, but the engagement announcement was something else entirely. Jake was rich, not just comfortable, but the kind of wealthy that makes people's heads turn. His family owned multiple businesses, had properties in 3 different countries, and the type of social connections that most people only see in movies. And my sister? She'd hit the proverbial jackpot. The announcement came during our annual Christmas dinner. Mom had her perfect Martha Stewart moment. Everything precisely placed, the china polished to a shine, that forced cheerfulness that screamed, "We're a perfect family." My sister walked in, that specific brand of excitement reserved for moments when she knew she was about to be the center of attention. "I'm engaged," she proclaimed, holding out a ring that probably cost more than my entire year's savings. It was massive, the kind of diamond that looked more like a small ice cube than a piece of jewelry. Jake stood beside her, all perfectly tailored suit and confident smile, looking like he'd stepped out of a GQ magazine. The family erupted. Mom was crying, Dad was beaming, and me? I was calculating the cost of that ring in my head. Easily 6 figures. Probably more than I'd saved in the past 5 years of careful financial planning. What should have been a moment of pure joy quickly became something else. My sister's eyes found mine across the table, and I knew exactly what was coming. That look was a prelude to a financial conversation that would make my blood boil. "So," she said, her voice taking on that familiar tone. Part manipulation, part expectation. "We're thinking of a destination wedding. Something really special." Special, in my family's language, always translated to expensive. And by expensive, they meant me covering the costs. Jake chimed in, all polished charm. "We're looking at a venue in the Amalfi Coast. Positano, actually. It's going to be incredible." He spoke as if discussing weekend plans, not what was clearly going to be a multi-million-dollar event. My sister continued, her excitement building. "We want something truly memorable. A wedding that people will talk about for years." The unspoken end of that sentence hung in the air. "And you're going to pay for it." I'd learned over the years to read the subtext of my family's conversations. This wasn't a request. This was an expectation. My sister had a way of making her desires sound like they were already agreed upon, like I had no choice but to comply. Mom jumped in, her eyes darting between us. "Isn't this exciting? Your sister deserves the perfect day." The implication was clear, and I was supposed to make it happen. I watched Jake, wondering if he knew what was coming. Did he realize that my sister's dream wedding would likely be funded by her hardworking sister? Or was he just another player in this familiar family drama? The conversation continued around me. Venue details, potential guest lists, designer dresses. Each word felt like another weight being added to my already overburdened shoulders. I'd spent years financially supporting my sister, and now this, a wedding that would likely cost more than everything I'd previously given her combined. "We're thinking about 200 guests," my sister said casually. "International destination. 5-star everything." Her eyes locked with mine, that familiar mix of manipulation and expectation brewing in her gaze. I knew the script. I was supposed to smile. Nod. Offer congratulations. Prepare my checkbook. But something was different this time. A shift had happened somewhere in my soul. Years of silent sacrifice were culminating in this moment. The carefully constructed facade of the perfect, supportive sister was showing its first real cracks. Jake continued talking about the wedding, oblivious to the internal storm brewing within me. My sister's hand was draped possessively over his arm, that massive engagement ring catching the light, a symbol of everything that was about to come. "So," she said finally, her tone leaving no room for negotiation, "you'll help us with the wedding, right?" In that moment, I realized this was more than just a wedding. This was a test, a final, ultimate test of how much I was willing to sacrifice, how much more I was willing to give. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't sure I was going to pass. The budget meeting was like a battlefield disguised as a family gathering. 2 weeks after the engagement announcement, my sister insisted on a family financial planning session. Her words, her manipulation, her game. They chose my apartment. Neutral territory, she claimed. But I knew better. This was a calculated move, a performance designed to corner me in my own space. Jake sat confidently on my mid-century modern sofa, my sister beside him, both dressed as if they were attending a business meeting rather than a family discussion. "We've put together a comprehensive wedding budget," my sister announced, pulling out a meticulously prepared spreadsheet. Her efficiency would have been impressive if it weren't so transparently manipulative. The numbers hit me like a physical blow. $50,000 for the Positano venue. Entire cliffside resort. Exclusive booking. "It's a destination wedding," she explained, as if that justified the astronomical cost. $15,000 for catering. Some renowned Italian chef flown in specifically for the event. $20,000 for photography and videography. "We want every moment captured," Jake added, his tone suggesting this was a completely reasonable request. Wedding dress? $10,000. And not just any dress. A custom-designed piece from a designer whose name alone probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. Floral arrangements. $7,500. Apparently, they were importing specific rare flowers from multiple countries. Decorations. $5,000. Wedding planner. $8,000. Transportation for guests. $10,000. The list went on and on and on. Total damage. $150,000. But that wasn't the most shocking part. My sister slid a detailed breakdown toward me, her finger pointing to a specific line item. "We're expecting you to cover $50,000 of the total budget," she said, her voice calm, matter-of-fact, as if she were discussing something as mundane as splitting a restaurant bill. My parents, seated quietly, said nothing. Their silence was their consent, their tacit approval of yet another financial burden they expected me to shoulder. "Why me?" I asked, my voice eerily calm. My sister's response was a masterclass in emotional manipulation. "You're the successful one. You've always been there for our family. This is family, after all." Family. That word, used as a weapon, used as a chain. Jake remained silent, but his presence spoke volumes. He came from money. Old money. The kind of wealth that viewed financial transactions as casual exchanges. And here he was, expecting me to fund a significant portion of their dream wedding. "I've been supporting you financially for years," I said, spreading out bank statements I'd meticulously prepared. "Let me break down exactly how much I've given you. College tuition, $87,000. Rent payments, $36,000. Emergency loans, $25,000. Car payments, $18,000. Additional miscellaneous support, $22,000. Total support over the past decade, $188,000. The room went silent. My sister's perfectly manicured smile flickered. Just for a moment. But I saw it. The moment of true entitlement being challenged. "This is different," she argued. "This is my wedding. This is important." Important. As if all my previous sacrifices had been insignificant. My mother finally spoke. "Honey, can't you help your sister? It's her special day." The passive-aggressive guilt trip, perfected over decades. I looked at my sister, at Jake, at my parents, and in that moment I saw the pattern with crystal clarity. I wasn't just a sister. I was a financial utility, a resource to be tapped, a means to an end. "No," I said. The word felt foreign, powerful. My sister's face transformed. Shock, anger, disbelief, all cycling through her expressions in rapid succession. "Excuse me?" she stammered. "No," I repeated. "I'm not paying for your wedding." The room temperature seemed to drop. Years of family dynamics, of silent sacrifices, of endless financial support, all of it crystallized in that single moment of refusal. Jake shifted uncomfortably. My parents exchanged a look of pure horror. My sister's voice grew sharp. "After everything I've been through, after all I've dealt with, you would do this to me?" But I was done. Done with the manipulation. Done with being the family's financial backstop. Done with sacrificing my own dreams for her endless expectations. "This isn't about what I'm doing to you," I said quietly. "This is about what I'm finally doing for myself." The war had begun, and for the first time, I was ready to fight. The aftermath of my refusal wasn't a conversation. It was emotional warfare. The first volley came through a series of text messages. Rapid-fire guilt trips, each message more calculated than the last. My phone became a battlefield of manipulation, each notification a potential emotional grenade. How can you do this to me? The first message read, "After everything I've been through," everything she'd been through. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd been the one going through everything, working multiple jobs, supporting her endlessly, sacrificing my own dreams while she floated through life on a cloud of family privilege. The phone calls started next, Mom first. Her voice was a perfect blend of disappointment and passive-aggressive concern. "Honey, we just want what's best for your sister. Can't you understand how important this is?" Important. That word again. As if my sister's wedding was the only important thing that had ever happened in our family's history. Dad was more direct. "You're being selfish," he said, his voice hard. "Family supports family." Support, another weaponized word in our family's arsenal. My sister escalated quickly. She knew exactly which buttons to push, which emotional triggers would create the maximum damage. "You're destroying my entire wedding," she proclaimed during a three-way call that felt more like an intervention than a conversation. The accusations flew fast and furious. "You've always been jealous of me. You're trying to ruin the happiest moment of my life. Real sisters would help each other." Each statement was a carefully crafted missile, designed to pierce through my resolve. Years of family dynamics had taught her exactly how to manipulate me. She knew my vulnerabilities better than anyone. Jake started getting involved, too. At first, he tried to be diplomatic. "We thought we could count on you," he said during one particularly tense phone call. The underlying message was clear. I was letting everyone down. Extended family got pulled into the drama. Aunts, uncles, cousins. Suddenly, my refusal to fund the wedding became the family's favorite topic of conversation. Whispered conversations, pointed comments, passive-aggressive text messages. "Your poor sister," they would say, "after everything she's been through." What had she been through exactly? Years of me financially supporting her every whim? Years of me being the family's financial safety net? The manipulation reached new heights when my mother showed up at my apartment unannounced. Her eyes were strategically wet, not full crying, but just enough to suggest impending emotional breakdown. "I don't understand," she said, sitting on my couch. "We've always been such a close family." Close. Another word weaponized beyond recognition. She pulled out old photographs, pictures of us as children, me protecting my sister, me helping her, me always being the responsible one. Each image was a silent accusation, a reminder of all the times I'd been there for her. "Remember when you promised to always take care of her?" Mom asked, her voice dripping with emotional manipulation. I remembered. A childhood promise made without understanding its potential future cost. The extended family started a coordinated attack. Phone calls, text messages, social media comments. Each communication a different variation of the same theme. How could I be so heartless? How could I abandon my sister on her special day? My sister knew exactly how to twist the knife. "I always thought you loved me," she would say, her voice a perfect blend of hurt and accusation. "I guess I was wrong." Love. Another word turned into a weapon. The emotional manipulation was relentless. Each conversation was designed to make me feel guilty, to make me question my decision, to break down my resolve. "You're tearing this family apart," my father said during one particularly heated conversation. But I was beginning to realize something profound. The family was already torn apart. It had been torn apart for years. I just hadn't been willing to see it. I'd spent my entire life supporting her, financing her dreams, covering her mistakes. And now, when I finally said no, I was the villain? The breaking point came during a family dinner, hastily arranged to talk things out. My sister arrived with a carefully crafted narrative of victimhood, tears on demand, a performance worthy of a Hollywood drama. "I just want my family to support me," she said, her voice breaking. But I was done. Done with the manipulation, done with being the family's financial martyr. "Support isn't writing a check," I said quietly. "Support is love, real love. And this isn't love. This is exploitation." The room went silent. The war had truly begun. And for the first time, I was ready to fight. Not with money, but with the truth. There's a moment between decision and action where everything becomes crystal clear. For me, that moment came in the quiet of my apartment, surrounded by years of financial records and broken promises. I pulled out every single document: bank statements, loan records, email receipts, Venmo transactions. Each piece of paper was a chapter in a story of endless sacrifice. I needed to see the full picture, to understand the true cost of my lifetime of giving. The numbers were staggering, not just financially, but emotionally. College tuition, $87,000. Rent payments, $36,000. Emergency loans, $25,000. Car payments, $18,000. Miscellaneous support, $22,000. Total financial support, $188,000. But how do you calculate the emotional toll? The missed opportunities? The dreams postponed? The personal sacrifices that don't have a dollar sign attached? I thought about my own dreams, the advanced degree I'd wanted to pursue, the startup I'd conceptualized but never launched, the travels I'd postponed, the relationships I'd neglected because I was always the family's financial safety net. My sister's life looked dramatically different. Designer clothes, fancy dinners, weekend trips, constant financial freedom, all funded by my relentless work. I remembered every single moment of support. The late-night study sessions where I'd help her with homework, the times I'd covered her rent, the car payments I'd made, the emergencies I'd bailed her out of. And what had I received in return? Guilt, manipulation, more demands. The wedding was just the final, most audacious request. $50,000 for a single day. A day that wasn't even about celebrating love, but about showing off. About maintaining a facade of perfection that had always defined our family. I thought about our childhood, how I'd always been the responsible one. How I'd been conditioned to believe that my worth was measured by how much I could provide. How every thank you came with an invisible string of future expectations. My parents had masterfully created this dynamic. The golden child, the responsible one. A perfect system of emotional and financial manipulation. I pulled out an old journal. Entries from years past revealed a pattern I'd been blind to. Pages filled with hopes and dreams, each one crossed out. Replaced by another financial bailout, another family emergency, another sacrifice. The most painful realization wasn't the money. It was the systematic erosion of my own identity. I had become nothing more than a financial utility for my family. A human ATM with feelings. My sister's wedding wasn't just about one day. It was about continuing this toxic pattern. Expecting me to finance her fantasy while sacrificing my own reality. I thought about the conversations, the guilt trips, the emotional manipulation. You're the successful one. Family helps family. After everything I've been through, each phrase a carefully crafted weapon, each word designed to keep me in my designated role. The breaking point wasn't a single moment. It was a culmination. Years of silent sacrifice, years of being the family's financial backbone, Years of putting everyone else's dreams before my own. I started making lists, not just of financial support, but of opportunities lost, dreams postponed, personal goals abandoned. Advanced certification I wanted, $15,000, never pursued. Potential startup investment, $50,000, redirected to family support. Travel fund, $30,000, used for family emergencies. Personal savings for home down payment, $75,000, depleted by family requests. The total cost of my familial loyalty was more than money. It was my entire future. My sister's life was a testament to privilege. Mine was a testament to sacrifice. And for what? A family that saw me as a resource to be exploited, not a person to be loved? The wedding was the final test. Would I continue to be the family's financial martyr? Or would I choose myself? I thought about all the times I'd been told I was responsible, reliable, the one everyone can count on. But responsible to whom? To a family that had never truly seen me? No more. The decision crystallized, not with anger, not with resentment, but with a profound sense of self-preservation. I was choosing myself, finally. The wedding would happen, or it wouldn't, but it would happen without my financial support. For the first time in my life, I was setting a boundary, and it felt like freedom. If I was going to choose myself, I was going to do it spectacularly. The $50,000 my sister expected me to spend on her wedding? I decided it would be my ticket to freedom. Not just metaphorically, literally. I sat down with a world map, a glass of wine, and a sense of rebellion brewing in my veins. This wasn't just going to be a vacation. This was going to be a statement. A declaration of independence written in passport stamps and unforgettable experiences. New Zealand caught my eye first. Those sweeping landscapes from the Lord of the Rings movies. Months of travel. Hiking through untouched wilderness. Staying in remote lodges. Experiencing a world completely removed from family drama. The itinerary took shape methodically. Exactly how I'd planned every other aspect of my life. But this time, the plan was for me. Only me. 3 months of complete freedom. 2 weeks hiking the entire length of New Zealand. A month exploring Australia's most remote regions. 2 weeks island hopping in the South Pacific. 2 weeks in Japan, experiencing a culture completely different from my own. The total cost? Precisely $49,500. $1 under what my sister expected me to contribute to her wedding. Poetic justice had a beautiful sense of timing. I started researching with the same intensity I'd always applied to supporting my family. Travel insurance, specialized hiking gear, language learning apps, detailed maps, accommodation in remote locations, every detail meticulously planned. This wasn't just a vacation. This was an act of rebellion. A middle finger to years of familial expectations. A reclaiming of my life, my money, my dreams. Each booking felt like a small victory. A hostel in Queenstown, a guided tour through the Australian outback, a traditional ryokan in Kyoto. Every reservation was a stake in the ground, a declaration, I choose me. My sister's wedding was scheduled for 6 months from now. My trip would coincide perfectly. While she was walking down the aisle, I'd be watching the sunrise over New Zealand's mountains. While her guests would be drinking expensive champagne, I'd be learning to surf in Australia. The irony was not lost on me. I thought about the conversations that would inevitably come. The family drama, the accusations, the guilt trips. How could you? This is so selfish. We needed you. But for the first time, I had a response ready. A response that wasn't an apology. A response that was simply, no. I needed me. The planning became a form of therapy. Each detail was a layer of healing. Each destination a step away from the family narrative that had defined me for so long. I joined travel forums, connected with solo travelers, read blogs about transformative journeys, discovered a world of people who had chosen themselves, who had broken free from familial expectations. My savings, which had always been a family resource, became my personal liberation fund. Every dollar that would have gone to my sister's wedding was now a dollar invested in my own journey of self-discovery. I remembered all the times I'd been told I was responsible. But responsible to whom? To a family that had never truly seen me? To expectations that had slowly suffocated my own dreams? No more. The trip became more than a vacation. It became a statement, a manifesto of personal freedom. I bought specialized travel gear, lightweight, versatile clothing, high-end hiking boots, a professional camera to document every moment, technology that would allow me to work remotely, ensuring my professional life didn't suffer. My colleagues were supportive in a way my family never was. They saw my excitement, understood my need for this journey. "You deserve this," my manager told me. The first time in years someone had said I deserved something. Just for me. The family group chat exploded when I subtly mentioned the trip. The messages were predictable. "How can you afford this? What about the wedding? This is so irresponsible." But each message rolled off me, like water off a freshly waxed surface. I was choosing me. Finally, completely, unapologetically choosing me. The day I finalized all the bookings, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. True, unbridled excitement. Not the excitement of solving someone else's problem. Not the satisfaction of being the family's savior. Pure, personal, selfish, excitement. My vacation was booked. My rebellion was planned. My freedom was purchased. $1 under $50,000. Exactly what my sister expected me to spend on her wedding. The universe had a sense of humor. And for once, I was in on the joke. Hell hath no fury like a family scorned. The moment my travel plans became public, our family group chat transformed into a nuclear war zone of emotions. My phone became a battlefield of notifications, each message more aggressive than the last. My sister led the charge. "How dare you choose a vacation over my wedding?" The first message came through, punctuated with so many exclamation points it looked like a digital scream. The extended family quickly joined the assault. Aunts, uncles, cousins. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone felt entitled to share it. Aunt Linda, who I'd helped pay for her hip surgery years ago, was particularly venomous. "After everything this family has done for you," her message read, "you choose to be so selfish?" Selfish, that word again. Used as a weapon, a shield, a way to maintain control. The phone calls started. Mom first. Her voice was a perfect blend of disappointment and barely contained rage. "We raised you better than this," she said. "A good daughter would be here for her sister." Dad was more direct. "You're destroying this family," he proclaimed, as if my refusal to fund a $50,000 wedding was somehow more destructive than years of emotional manipulation. My sister escalated quickly. Screenshots of wedding plans, detailed breakdowns of costs, passive-aggressive posts on social media that never mentioned me by name but were clearly about me. "Some people don't understand the meaning of family," she wrote, garnering hundreds of supportive comments from friends and extended family who only knew her carefully curated version of events. The extended family group chat became a tribunal. Each message a prosecution of my character. How could she do this? What kind of sister does this? She's always been difficult. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly had opinions. Uncles who'd never supported me a day in their lives were now experts on family loyalty. My phone became a weapon of psychological warfare. Constant notifications, endless messages, a relentless barrage of guilt and manipulation. Text messages arrived in rapid succession. "You're ruining your sister's special day. This is unforgivable. You'll regret this forever." But something had shifted inside me. Each message, instead of causing guilt, now felt like confirmation. Confirmation that I was making the right choice. The social media campaign began. My sister, master of manipulation, started posting cryptic messages. Carefully crafted posts that painted herself as the victim. Screenshots of wedding planning. Tearful selfies. A narrative of familial betrayal. Friends and followers responded with an avalanche of support. "Stay strong. Family first. You deserve your dream wedding." They didn't know the full story. They couldn't see the years of financial manipulation, the constant erosion of my boundaries, the endless expectations. My brother, who had always stayed neutral, finally reached out. "Maybe you could compromise," he suggested, as if compromise was still possible after years of one-sided sacrifice. The extended family started calling my workplace, my employer, my professional contacts, attempting to paint me as unstable, unreliable, a terrible daughter and sister. Each call was a calculated attempt to destroy my professional reputation, to force me back into submission. But I had documentation, years of financial records, proof of every single sacrifice I'd made, emails, bank statements, text messages requesting financial support. If they wanted a war, I was prepared to fight. My sister's fiancé, Jake, started sending messages, passive-aggressive attempts to guilt me. "We thought we could count on you," he would write. As if my entire worth was defined by my ability to fund their elaborate wedding. The family tried every manipulation tactic in their arsenal. Guilt, shame, emotional blackmail, threats of complete estrangement. Each tactic, which would have destroyed me years ago, now felt like cheap parlor tricks. I remembered all the times I'd been told I was responsible, reliable, the one everyone can count on. But responsible to whom? To a family that saw me as a resource to be exploited? No more. The final message from my sister was a masterpiece of manipulation. A long, rambling text that was part accusation, part emotional breakdown. Pages of text explaining how I was destroying her one special day. But I saw through it now. Saw the pattern, the manipulation, the endless cycle of emotional control. My response was simple. 3 words. I choose me. The nuclear family fallout had begun, and for the first time, I wasn't afraid. I was free. Preparation is an act of rebellion when you've spent your entire life preparing for everyone else. My travel preparations became a meditation, each item carefully selected, each plan meticulously crafted. This wasn't just a vacation. This was my declaration of independence. I started with gear, not the cheap compromise purchases I'd always made before. These were investments in myself. A high-end, lightweight backpack that could survive multiple terrains. Hiking boots that cost more than my entire wardrobe used to. Technical clothing that could transition from mountain trails to city streets. Every purchase felt like a small victory. Language learning apps became my new obsession. I downloaded programs for Maori, Japanese, Australian slang. Not just to communicate, but to immerse myself completely. To prove to myself that I could learn, grow, explore, entirely on my own terms. My home office transformed into a travel command center. Maps covered the walls. Detailed itineraries spread across my desk. Notebooks filled with research, potential routes, must-see locations. This was more than planning. This was reclaiming my life, one detailed note at a time. I created multiple backup plans, digital copies of important documents, emergency contact information, travel insurance that covered everything from medical emergencies to trip cancellations. The level of preparation would have impressed my family if they were still speaking to me. Remote work arrangements became my priority. My manager was surprisingly supportive. "Take your laptop," she told me. "Work from wherever you want." The freedom was intoxicating. No longer confined by family expectations, I could work from a cafe in Tokyo, a beach in Australia, a mountain lodge in New Zealand. The financial planning was surgical. I'd saved for years, always with someone else's needs in mind. Now every dollar was allocated to my dream: accommodation in eco-lodges, guided tours that supported local communities, experiences that would challenge and transform me. I started a travel journal, not just a record of locations, but a chronicle of my emotional journey. Pages filled with reflections on years of silent sacrifice, hopes for the future, dreams I'd postponed. Each page was an exorcism of old family narratives. The family continued their assault. Text messages, social media posts, attempts to guilt me. But each message now felt like distant background noise, like a radio playing in another room that I could choose to ignore. Practical preparations mixed with emotional healing. I got a full medical checkup. Dental work I'd always postponed. Vaccinations for international travel. Taking care of myself, truly taking care of myself, was a novel concept. I created digital safety nets, cloud backups of important documents, international phone plans, multiple credit cards with travel notifications, emergency funds strategically placed in different accounts. I was learning to protect myself in ways I never had before. Fitness became a priority. Not to look a certain way, but to prepare for the physical challenges of my trip. Hiking training, yoga, strength training. Each workout was a rebellion against years of putting everyone else first. My apartment slowly transformed. Minimalist packing meant letting go of physical and emotional baggage. Donations to local charities, selling furniture, storing important documents. Each item I let go felt like another layer of freedom. I created a support network of my own: fellow travelers, online communities, friends who understood my journey, people who celebrated my choice to choose myself. The family tried one last intervention: a group video call, carefully orchestrated. Parents, sister, extended family, all gathered to talk some sense into me. I declined. Instead, I sent a simple message: I love myself enough to choose my own path. Travel guides became my new family. Lonely Planet, rough guides, books that spoke of adventure, of personal transformation. I devoured them like they were love letters to my future self. I learned about the places I would visit. Not just tourist attractions, but deep cultural nuances. The meaning behind Maori traditions. The philosophy of Japanese minimalism. The indigenous history of Australian landscapes. This wasn't just travel. This was education. Personal growth. My sister's wedding date approached. The same weekend I would be hiking in New Zealand. The same days she would be walking down the aisle. I would be standing on a mountain, watching the sunrise over landscapes that had existed long before family drama. The ultimate irony? My $50,000 journey was an investment in myself. Not a single-day performance like her wedding, but a transformative experience that would reshape my entire existence. As I zipped up my perfectly packed backpack, I realized something profound. This wasn't just a vacation. This was my liberation. The universe has a sense of timing that no wedding planner could ever orchestrate. My sister's wedding weekend coincided perfectly with my journey through New Zealand. While she was walking down the aisle in an expensive destination venue, I was standing atop a mountain, watching the world unfold beneath me. Social media became my window into the parallel universe of family drama. Not because I was obsessed, but because the contrast was too perfect to ignore. The first glimpse came through a series of Instagram stories. My sister, resplendent in a designer wedding gown, surrounded by guests in a breathtaking coastal venue. Champagne flowing, elaborate decorations, the kind of wedding that looked like it had been ripped from a magazine spread. Jake, her fiancé, stood beside her, looking like he'd stepped out of a high-end fashion catalog. The venue was exactly as she'd described. Positano, cliffside, impossibly blue waters in the background. But something was different this time. I was watching, not participating. An observer, not a participant. My phone buzzed with messages from extended family, passive-aggressive attempts to make me feel guilty, screenshots of wedding moments, carefully crafted comments designed to trigger an emotional response. But I was standing on a mountain in New Zealand, the wind whipping around me, the world stretched out below like a living, breathing canvas. I took a photograph, my hiking boots, the vast landscape, a small token of my freedom. The wedding updates continued to roll in. Carefully curated moments. Professional photographers capturing every staged emotion. Family members I'd known my entire life, dressed in their finest, playing their predetermined roles. I thought about the financial toll. The $50,000 my sister had expected me to contribute. The money that was now funding my journey of self-discovery. A guided tour group approached. International travelers. Strangers who knew nothing of my family drama. We shared stories. Laughed. Connected in ways my family never had. My sister's social media told a different story. Perfect moments. Choreographed happiness. The kind of performance our family had always been good at. I received a group text from family members. A mass message designed to make me feel excluded. Guilt-tripping remarks about family unity. About the importance of being there for each other. But being there for each other. What did that really mean? I thought about the years of financial support, the endless sacrifices, the constant emotional labor I'd performed. My phone continued to buzz, messages from aunts, uncles, cousins, each one a subtle attempt to manipulate, to guilt, to control. I put the phone on Do Not Disturb. The mountain didn't care about family drama. The landscape was indifferent to my past. Here, I was just another traveler, another soul seeking something beyond the familiar. I thought about the wedding, about the performance of love, about the elaborate show of affection that masked years of manipulation. Somewhere, my sister was walking down the aisle, surrounded by everything she'd ever wanted, funded by years of my sacrifice. But I was free. The wedding photos continued to populate social media. Carefully filtered, perfectly staged. Each image a testament to the facade our family had always maintained. My images were different, raw, unfiltered, real. A selfie with a local guide, my hiking boots covered in mud. The genuine smile of someone who had chosen themselves. The contrast was stark, their performance, my reality. I thought about the years of financial support, the endless sacrifices, the constant emotional labor, and I felt nothing but peace. My sister's wedding was a spectacle. My journey was a transformation. As the sun set over the New Zealand landscape, I realized something profound. I wasn't missing anything. Not anymore. Complete estrangement isn't something that happens suddenly. It's a slow burn that suddenly becomes a wildfire. The silence after the wedding was deafening. But it wasn't the silence of reconciliation. It was the silence of absolute rejection. My phone, which had been a constant battlefield of messages during the wedding weekend, went completely dark. No calls, no texts, no social media mentions. It was as if I had been digitally erased from my family's existence. I expected the fallout. What I didn't expect was the profound sense of relief that accompanied it. The first official communication came through a lawyer. A certified letter arrived at my apartment, formal and cold. My parents were removing me from their will. My sister was officially cutting all ties. Each word was a surgical strike, designed to hurt. But hurt requires investment, and I was fresh out of emotional investments. My extended family followed suit. Cousins who had once relied on my financial support. Aunts who had benefited from my generosity. Uncles who had always seen me as the family's financial utility. They all disappeared. Social media became a graveyard of memories. Old family photos, childhood pictures, moments of shared history now felt like artifacts from a different life. I went through and systematically removed myself, not with anger, but with a clinical precision that surprised even me. The first few weeks were a strange dance of emotions. Moments of doubt would creep in. Had I been too harsh? Too dramatic? The years of conditioning don't disappear overnight. But then I'd remember the years of financial manipulation, the endless expectations, the consistent devaluation of my own dreams and desires. Number I hadn't been to anything. I was finally being enough. Enough for myself. My therapist, a recent addition to my support system, helped me navigate the emotional minefield. Grief isn't linear, she would remind me, especially when it comes to family. Grief. That's what this was. Grieving the family I thought I had. The relationships I had sacrificed myself to maintain. The love that had always been conditional. I started documenting everything, not out of bitterness, but as a form of personal healing. Detailed records of financial support, screenshots of manipulative messages, a comprehensive timeline of years of emotional labor. Some nights were harder than others. The midnight demons would arrive. Whispers of doubt. Questions about family loyalty. The deeply ingrained narratives that had defined my entire existence. But then I'd look at my travel photos. The mountain in New Zealand where I first felt truly free. The beach in Australia where I realized my worth wasn't determined by my ability to support others. The streets of Tokyo where I discovered a version of myself I never knew existed. My chosen family became my lifeline. Friends who understood, colleagues who supported, a network of individuals who saw me, truly saw me, for the first time. I received one final communication from my family, a cease and desist letter, a legal document demanding I stop discussing our family history, another attempt at control, another manipulation tactic. I filed it away, another piece of evidence in my journey of self-discovery. The financial calculations were both painful and liberating. Over the years, I had supported my family to the tune of nearly $200,000. Money that could have been my retirement, my dream home, my personal security. But now, that money had bought me something far more valuable: freedom. My sister's wedding became a distant memory, a performance I was no longer required to fund or attend. The photographs that flooded social media became less and less interesting, just another elaborate show of family dysfunction. I thought about the little girl I used to be, the one who believed that love meant endless sacrifice, the one who thought her worth was measured by how much she could provide. That girl was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who understood that boundaries aren't walls. They're declarations of self-respect. The estrangement wasn't a loss. It was a liberation. My phone remained silent. My family tree pruned down to its bare branches. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't empty. I was full. Freedom has a cost, but it's nothing compared to the price of silence. 6 months after the wedding, 6 months after my journey, 6 months of complete separation from the family that had defined me my entire life. I sat in my therapist's office, surrounded by the soft light and carefully chosen artwork. This had become my sanctuary, a place of reconstruction, of understanding, of healing. Let's talk about the financial toll, Dr. Martinez said, her voice gentle but direct. Not just the money you've given, but the emotional currency you've been spending your entire life. I pulled out my meticulously maintained spreadsheet. Years of financial support, calculated down to the last dollar. College tuition, $87,000. Rent payments, $36,000. Emergency loans, $25,000. Car payments, $18,000. Miscellaneous support, $22,000. Total financial support, $188,000. But how do you calculate the emotional overhead? The dreams postponed? The opportunities lost? The personal growth stunted by constant family demands? It wasn't just about the money, I told her. It was about the narrative, the story I was told about who I was supposed to be. The good daughter, the responsible one, the family's financial savior. Dr. Martinez nodded. And now? Now, such a powerful word. My travels had been more than a vacation. They were a deconstruction. A systematic dismantling of every narrative that had been built around me. In New Zealand, I learned about the Maori concept of mana. Personal power, dignity, inherent worth. Not something given, something claimed. In Australia, I met solo travelers from around the world. People who had walked away from toxic family dynamics, who had chosen themselves, who understood that family is a choice, not an obligation. In Japan, I discovered the art of kintsugi, the practice of repairing broken pottery with gold, treating breakage and repair as part of the object's history, not something to hide, something to celebrate. I was becoming my own kintsugi, repairing myself, not hiding the cracks, highlighting them, making them beautiful. The emotional calculations were harder to quantify. Years of suppressed dreams, immeasurable. Emotional labor performed, infinite. Personal growth delayed, incalculable. But now, I was investing in myself, truly investing. Language classes, professional development courses, therapy, travel. Each expenditure a declaration of self-worth. My workplace had noticed the change, the confidence, the clarity. Promotions followed, not because I was trying to prove something to my family, but because I was proving something to myself. I thought about the wedding, the $50,000 event that was supposed to be the pinnacle of family unity, compared to my $49,500 journey of self-discovery. The irony was not lost on me. My sister's wedding was a performance. My journey was a transformation. I started a support group for people who had walked away from toxic family dynamics. People who understood that setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's survival. We shared stories, compared notes, supported each other's healing. The group became my new family, not bound by blood, but by understanding, by choice. My financial advisor was the first person outside my therapy circle to truly celebrate my journey. You didn't just save money, he told me. You invested in yourself, the most secure investment possible. I thought about the little girl I used to be, the one who believed her worth was measured by how much she could give, how much she could sacrifice. That girl was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who understood that love, true love, isn't transactional. It isn't about endless giving. It's about mutual respect, about seeing each other's humanity. The family estrangement wasn't a loss. It was a reclamation of my time, my money, my dreams, my entire existence. Dr. Martinez asked the question that had been brewing between us. "Are you happy?" I looked out the window, saw the world, not as a place of obligation, but as a landscape of possibility. "Yes," I said, "completely." The true cost of freedom? Everything I thought defined me. The true value of freedom? Everything I was about to become. The future isn't something that happens to you. It's something you create. 1 year after the wedding, 1 year after my journey, 1 year of complete transformation. I sat in my new apartment. Not a compromise space, not a temporary solution, but a home I'd chosen, designed, created entirely for myself. The walls were covered with photographs from my travels, not as decorations, but as reminders, proof of my journey, evidence of my transformation. The New Zealand mountain where I first felt truly free, the Australian beach where I rediscovered my strength, the Tokyo street where I understood the meaning of personal choice. My phone rang, not from family, but from a network of chosen connections. Friends, colleagues, fellow travelers who understood the meaning of true support. I was building something entirely new. Not just a career, not just a life, but an entire ecosystem of support and possibility. The support group I'd started had grown. Dozens of members, people who understood that walking away isn't weakness. It's an act of profound self-love. My professional life had transformed. No longer the family's financial utility. I was now a sought-after consultant, speaking at conferences, writing about digital strategy, sharing my journey, not as a victim, but as a survivor. Financial planning became my passion, not just for myself, but to help others break free from toxic family dynamics. I started a podcast, wrote a blog, created resources for people trapped in similar situations. My peace is worth more than their expectations became more than a motto. It became a mission. I thought about the money, the $188,000 I'd given away, the years of financial sacrifice. But now, I was investing differently. In myself, in my dreams, in my future. The therapy continued, not as a way to heal from trauma, but as a way to grow, to understand, to expand. Dr. Martinez watched my transformation with a mixture of professional pride and genuine joy. "You're not just recovering," she told me. "You're becoming." Becoming. Such a powerful word. I thought about my sister's wedding, the $50,000 event that was supposed to be the pinnacle of family unity, compared to my $49,500 journey of self-discovery. The irony was a constant companion. My chosen family grew, not through blood, but through understanding, through shared experiences, through genuine connection. I started mentoring young professionals, showing them that success isn't about sacrifice. It's about balance, about choice. The podcast gained traction, thousands of listeners, people sharing their stories, breaking free from their own family narratives. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, I would tell them. It's an act of self-preservation. My travel experiences became more than memories. They became lessons, teachings, a philosophy of living. From the Maori concept of mana, personal power. From Australian resilience, strength through adversity. From Japanese kintsugi, beauty in repair. I was creating something entirely new. The family continued their silence. Occasional legal threats would arrive, cease and desist letters, attempts to control the narrative. I filed them away, not with anger, but with a clinical detachment. They were no longer my story. My investments changed. Professional development, personal growth courses, travel, mentorship programs, supporting other survivors. The financial calculations were different now. Emotional wealth, immeasurable. Personal growth, exponential. Freedom, priceless. I thought about the little girl I used to be, the one who believed her worth was measured by how much she could give. That girl was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who understood that love, true love, isn't about endless giving. It's about mutual respect, about seeing each other's humanity. The podcast episode about my journey went viral. Millions of views, thousands of messages of support. "You gave me the courage to choose myself," they would write. My sister's wedding was a distant memory, a performance I was no longer required to attend. My journey was ongoing, constantly evolving, always expanding. Dr. Martinez asked me the question that had become our recurring theme. "Are you happy?" I looked around my apartment, at the photographs, the memories, the life I'd created. "Completely," I said. "The true cost of freedom? Everything I thought defined me. The true value of freedom? Everything I was about to become."